What happened here is truly one of a kind.
Peekaboo!
I've worked with animals for a very long time, and even I can't explain this. I'm Kaylee, and this is Darling's story for GeoBeats. About 3 years ago, I was out for a walk with Sam, my border collie, and we found fledgling crow. She was feathered, but not fully flighted. I have a lot of experience with birds, and I know it's best to leave baby birds where you find them. As night fell, I did become a little concerned because she hadn't moved up or the other crows hadn't come by. So I did make a makeshift nest and I just put her on my deck. And then in the next couple of days, the other crows did come by and she did start flying, but she just never left the property.
There you are. Hello.
She stuck around, stayed by the house. We do have a large property that became her territory. She would always tap on our window every morning. Sometimes she would make the owl vocalization. She always wanted us to come out and play. I would walk my dog every day, and she just started to follow Sam and I. So as we were going through the forest, all of a sudden we would see Darling coming and flying through and finding us in our forest path. I don't live in the pages of a fairy tale. I live in Canada. As the sun went down, she would always fly into the forest. I never actually knew exactly where she would roost, but it was somewhere in our forest. Sam, he truly is a very special boy. He was a rescue from a shelter in California. He is the magician behind all the magic. It's shocking to me how calm and patient he was with Darling. Darling could be a little pesky, and she would sometimes pull at his fur, pull at his tail, but he just let it all happen. The following year, we ended up getting a kitten who we named Gigi. And just like with Darling, he was extremely gentle with Gigi. They would play fight, but he was always letting her win. So I truly think it's because of Sam that all this has happened. Darling would fly down and she started to pick at the end of the leash where the handle was. I suppose being crows being observational learners, she was watching me always holding Sam's leash and she thought she could do it too. There was one time I was out walking Sam and a Cooper's hawk came in and started chasing after Darling. Sam, who's much faster than I am, he was able to get over there quicker to Darling and chase the Cooper's hawk away. There's another time where Darling did try to help Sam out. Sam was chewing on a stick and he ended up getting a bit of the stick lodged in between his roof of his mouth. I was trying to pull it out and Darling came flying over and she landed on Sam's head and she stuck her head in Sam's mouth and was pecking at this little piece of wood. I couldn't believe it.
Good girl, darling.
If Sam had burrs or snowballs or any other kind of fluff on his fur, she would pick it off and make sure he always looked his best. Gigi and Darling started to meet through the window. Darling would come tap on the window and Gigi would go to the window and they would sit and they would interact. Darling would start preening herself and Gigi would start grooming herself. And so I felt that they definitely had a connection. They felt very comfortable with each other. They loved playing this game with Darling would be hiding in the grass and Gigi would run over and then they would kind of run away and then Gigi would hide and Darling would come fly and find her. I never considered her a pet. She was more of a friend to me. She wanted to come in, but I would not let her come in. She was a wild animal. The wild is unpredictable. I couldn't always protect her, but she belonged outside. I did always have this in the back of my mind, but I was trying not to dwell on it. Hanging out with Darling was like being in another dimension. They say that crows have the intelligence of a 7-year-old. I think it's well exceeded that of a 7-year-old. I don't think humans can comprehend how smart crows actually are. I got to witness an amazing behavior where she was collecting snow and piling it up, and it almost seemed like she was making a little fort. Then she went into this little fort and started having her own little snow bath. She did have a lot of fun games. My husband would come out with his tea in the morning and go on the deck, and she would steal the spoon and the tea bag and want my husband to go chase after her. If you were outside writing, she would steal your pen, so you would have to go chase after her. Although we didn't speak the same language, there was definitely a way that we could communicate. I've worked with a lot of birds. I've worked with hawks and eagles, and I feel they just like stare right through you. But when I look at Darling, I felt like she was truly looking into my soul. Like she really could read my thoughts. She definitely knew her name.
Darling.
If I would call Darling, she would come flying over. And I think she would know Sam's name and Gigi's name. She recognized other people.
Hello, Sammy. Hello, darling.
Me and my husband and my dog and my cat were in her circle of trust because she was very particular who she let in. She also, you know, if anybody came to her door, she would let them know that they were crossing, they were on the wrong territory. Our poor plumbers never wanted to come over and help us because Darling would chase them away. And we did have to put up signs that said territorial crow in the area because she did become very territorial of the property. I don't know if Darling was a female. With crows, it's hard to tell if they're male or female, but we just always tended to say she, and we kept on calling her little Darling. I should say they, because I really don't know. Her pronouns are they, because I don't know. Her vocalizations were all quite unique. There was one where it sounded like she was mimicking a great horned owl. I also heard her mimicking my laugh. Darling was my alarm clock. There was no days off. When they say early bird, it's true. She got up at the crack of dawn. There are some mornings I definitely would like to sleep in, but I did get up and go out with her. Last November was the most difficult experience I've ever had. That morning, she didn't tap on the window, and when I went outside, I could hear all the crows' alarm cawing. It was very somber over the next few days, and I think Sam and Gigi were grieving in their own way. Now, whenever Sam and Gigi hear a crow, they run to the window, but there'll never be another Darling.